Hello again, the internet. It is Amy, but you're not going to see my face in this video. I've decided to do something a little bit different. I find it really relaxing to watch painting videos, and I also find it very relaxing to paint. So I thought I'd combine those two and create a video showing my painting process and have a little chit chat, just something a bit more quiet and chilled out. So if you do enjoy this video, please let me know in the comments and I will make more videos like this in the future. So in case you can't tell by my accent or because you know me in real life, I live in New Zealand and we are in our third week of our alert level 4 nationwide lockdown. And I don't know about everyone else, but I know that this is around the time where I've really started to get that kind of stir crazy feeling. So for me, having creative outlets that I can go to every day has been really therapeutic for me. That's why you're seeing videos and songwriting. And on the days that I haven't been doing those things, I've been gardening or baking bread or drawing a little cartoon style image, just literally anything, so that I have created something during the day and had that chance to exercise my creative muscles and feel like I'm doing something productive. The art technique that I practice is acrylic pour painting. It's a very easy painting technique that literally anyone with paint can do. And it doesn't really involve a lot of academic painting knowledge. It doesn't require a lot of technique or planning. You don't need to have a mission statement when you start out. It's an abstract art technique. And it literally involves either using liquid acrylic paints or diluting your own acrylic paints to create a fluid texture that you can then pour onto your canvas. When I first started doing this, I would use canvas that I bought from either a $2 shop or variety shop, or that I'd pick up old canvases from op shops and paint over them. In the last year or so, instead of doing that, I've actually been buying wooden, mostly, items from secondhand shops. So places like the Recycle Centre, Nelson Restore, the SPCA op shop. Things like old chopping boards, old photo frames, little wooden bowls, and I really enjoy the challenge of painting on a new shape and the challenge that comes with that. I have also really enjoyed turning plain wooden frames into something a bit more funky and interesting to frame my photos. On my journey with this art form that I've probably been doing for about 1.5 years now, I have learnt a lot about what I like in terms of colours and shapes and styles. I've always gone back to this technique that I'm showing you in this video, where I pour all the colours into one cup and just tip them out onto the surface. So the object I'm pouring onto in this video is actually some bookends that I picked up from a secondhand shop. They look like they might have been a DIY project or a school project, something like that. They just have that very kind of imprecise DIY feel to them. And I'm so grateful to whoever made them or owned them that they hung on to them and donated them to a secondhand shop so that I could breathe a bit of new life into them. I really love watching the paint move. one of the things I enjoy about this technique is not only does the end result almost always come out interesting and beautiful, but the process itself is really enjoyable to watch. With a lot of art techniques, and this is probably why I don't gravitate towards the visual arts that much, is that it takes a long time before you see results. You know, there's underpaintings and sketches and planning, whereas this is beautiful from start to finish. I love these colours. It should be of no surprise to anyone that knows me in person that I always gravitate towards these bright pinks, the teals, the blues. I think that they look really beautiful together, and I am really drawn to these really bright colours. The key to this kind of painting is to play with contrast. I usually use 2 dark and 2 light colours, and it's usually one each of some contrasting colours like blue and orange, purple and gold, pink and teal. I love that I can just use my fingers to paint and get really messy, and it's part of the process. You can see here where I realised there was too much paint on one end and not on the other. So I have tipped some onto the other paint, but it doesn't ruin anything. If anything, it adds texture. And that tipping and tilting and rotating to move the paint around is a really important organic part of the process. And you never know how it's going to turn out. And I really enjoy that about this process. As I mentioned earlier, New Zealand is in its 3rd week of nationwide lockdown. And I was told by, I remember reading early on that week 3 was a difficult one. I think now is the time when we're all starting to wonder how long this will go for, because we were originally told the minimum time frame to be in this sort of lockdown process was 4 weeks, and we've done incredibly well. Our numbers are really good, and you can see the flattening of the curve that they talked about early on in the pandemic. However, not everyone that I know is confident about when we're going to be out of lockdown or what the loosening of the rules might mean, what a level 3 alert might mean, if it's going to be region by region or nationwide, when we'll be able to go back to our normal jobs and what our normal jobs will look like post lockdown. And I think that that uncertainty is distressing. And I don't know about other people, but I know that while I recognize that the most important thing that I can do is to stay at home, to break the chain of transmission, with everything going on around the world, sitting at home feels so passive and can make me feel a little bit useless, especially when I know that there are so many people who are able to have an active role in helping fix things. But I at least find that this creative act helps me feel productive. And I hope that by creating content for an audience on YouTube, I am providing some assistance in some way, even if it's just to help you relax or give you a voice you can relate to or give you a giggle. This is this right here is one of my favorite parts of the process, this sort of second tilt where you're really finding the tricky parts of the painting. Areas where it's not so even, maybe there's more little air bubbles in some places than others, and just tipping the canvas to find those little spots. I love watching the paint move. I love being able to get my hands involved. This can be such a tactile technique because your fingers can really feel where there is paint and where there isn't, and can actually be quite precise in moving the paint around. Oh, these colours are gorgeous. I love these colours. My favourite at this point is the one on the left. You can really see the pinks, but I also like the darker areas on the one on the right. They're the same cup of paint, exactly the same paint on both sides, but they are so different. You might not be able to tell just from watching, but I've actually sped this part of the clip up quite significantly. The paint is moving, but it is at such a glacial pace, it is barely noticeable. And it's not even until you sort of compare a before and after, 5 minutes apart, that you can really see what a difference just letting everything sit there makes. That's why I love this art form so much, is because it is so organic and chaotic. And you really just can't plan for where that paint is going to end up. And there's something very freeing about that, especially when, personally, a lot of the creative outlets that I have do involve a lot of planning and organization. I know that people think of creative activity as spontaneous and emotional and freeing, but if you want to write a story or a script or create a video, it can actually be quite time consuming, and it involves a lot of planning. So to have an art form like this that really is very well, it's impossible to plan. And there's some you can do as long as you are paying attention to the colours that you use and are using a technique that you are familiar with. You can have some control over the shape of the final piece, but it's hardly the level of control that someone like Da Vinci had over his paintings that were so well constructed and sketched out. Abstract art really is about the process as much as it is about the end result, and that's something I really admire about it. It's, in a lot of ways, it's art for art's sake, or art for experimentation's sake. You can see here I'm just making some final touches to the distribution of paint where it's kind of welled up in the angle of the bookends. Just letting some of that drain off. We are heading towards the end of the video now. You can see that piece isn't almost finished. They looked really nice while the paint was wet, but the paint continues to move until they've really properly dried. But I love the way that they've come out. Although this video was a little bit different to what I normally do, but I really hope you've enjoyed watching it. It's given you a bit of chill time, maybe inspired you to create something of your own. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Kia kaha.